Your time starts.
Hari Hari. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Sarakaya Chakshurulmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupadamayyam Dadati Sapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shriuta Padgamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पेशाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनित्य नामने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पासादेस्तान्ने वांछा कल्पद्रुवशा कृपा सिंधु एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरसे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपसा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्रीराधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। संसारी नाम करुणा पुराण गुह्यम तम या समूप्यामि गुरु नाम। Hare Krishna. So I seek blessings of all the devotees assembled here so that I can present my topic for your pleasure and the pleasure of Guru Parampara. So my topic for the presentation is Glories of Vatsalya rasa. So we'll begin with the quote by Srila Prabhupada, which is like a platform to understand the Vatsalya rasa. So I would request, maybe Narottam Vilas Prabhu, can you read the introduction?
C.C. Adi Lila Introduction. There are different stages of devotional service and God realization. Strictly speaking, anyone who accepts the existence of God is situated in devotional service. To acknowledge that God is great is something, but not much. Lord Chaitanya, preaching as an Acharya, a great teacher, taught that we can enter into relationship with God and actually become God's friend, parent, or lover. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna showed Arjuna his universal form because Arjuna was his very dear friend. Upon seeing Krishna as the Lord of the universes, however, Arjuna asked Krishna to forgive the familiarity of his friendship.
And here Prabhupada talks about that we can have a relationship with God. Because in general in the world history we find, general religions, they show God as someone who gives, someone who's too great, who judges things, but having a relationship with God is something unheard of. And that is a gift of our acharyas. And further in the same introduction, Prabhupada continues. So this is a big one, but I would request maybe Srinivas Gopal Prabhu, can you read?
Lord Chaitanya goes beyond this point. Through Lord Chaitanya, we can become friends with Krishna, and there will be no limit to this friendship. We can become friends of Krishna, not in awe or adoration, but in complete freedom. We can even relate to God as his father or mother. This is the philosophy, not only of Chaitanya Charitamrita, but Srimad Bhagavatam as well. There are no other scriptures in the world in which God is treated as the son of a devotee. Usually, God is seen as the Almighty Father who supplies the demands of his sons. The great devotees, however, sometimes treat God as a son in their execution of devotional service. The son demands and the father and mother supply. And in supplying Krishna, the devotee becomes like a father or mother instead of taking from God. We give to God. it was in this relationship that Krishna's mother Yashoda told the Lord, "Here, eat this or you'll die. Eat nicely." In this way, Krishna, although the proprietor of everything, depends on the mercy of his devotee. This is a uniquely high level of friendship in which the devotee actually believes himself to be the father or mother of Krishna.
Hari Hari. Thank you. We find here that this Vatsalya ras is an exhibition or an opportunity to serve the Lord even better. So Prabhupada writes that how people who say that God is great, God is like our father, generally they want to take from God. But when we treat God as a friend, a lover, or parents, there's an opportunity to serve the Lord. So that is how these higher rasas of friendship or parenthood, they give an opportunity to serve Lord even better. So that is the basic background of the Vatsalya ras, which Prabhupada establishes here. Okay. So before that, I just wanted to take a poll from all of you. So somehow I was not prepared. But how many of you feel that relationships are best source of pleasure? So this is one option. Second option is, how many of you feel that relationships are the ones which give the greatest amount of pain? So how many of you opt for option number one? Please raise your hand.
Is it a multiple choice or only single choice?
I think you can refrain also or add also.
Any third option?
Okay, I go for both.
So either one or two or both. Okay. Yeah, Krishna, can I approve some different option? 1, 2, or
A third option will be nice.
third is both, and fourth is none.
Sometime one, sometime another.
Okay. So, look, some devotees can, maybe Krishna Kanyapu can tell how it can be one or two or both or none.
It appears in different, I don't know. First, it appears like pleasure, but in the end, it becomes like poison, and opposite also. You meet a very nice man, and he appears like this relationship appears like poisonous, but in the end, it becomes nice.
Experiences keep on changing. Thank you. Someone else would also like to speak? When it brings, yes, Maharaj.
Actually, relationships are greatest source of pleasure because the people who we have relationship can reach to our heart, can pacify us, can invest their love. At the same time, they are the greatest potential of danger, because the people who have access to our heart can also hurt us the most.
Yeah, thank you. So certainly, the relationships can be greatest source of pleasure and even the greatest source of pain also. Those who can reach the heart the most can break the heart the most also, like devotees were explaining. But unfortunately, in this material world, we find that somehow the relationships, even if they're sources of pleasure, ultimately they end up in pain, because the relationships are temporary in this world. So Vasudeva, when he meets with Nanda Maharaj, so Nanda Maharaj speaks a very beautiful verse in this regard. He says, "Na katra priya samvasa suhida chitra karmanam oge na vyuhumananam plavanam sotaso yatha na ekatra priya samvasaha." In this world, those who are our friends and relatives, they can't stay together for a long time. Suhridam chitra karmanam. Why? The first reason which he gives is chitra karmanam. Chitra karmanam means because they have varieties of reactions from past karmic activities. And then he gives the example of Og Vyu Mananam, Plavanam Sotisweta. Like sticks, they come together and then they separate in due course of time. So because of time and the type of reactions of past sinful activities or past activities are there, we come together and we separate. So because this world is temporary world, even people who give a lot of pleasure, if we are separate from them, it gives a lot of pain. And there's something actually I also felt. I don't know, maybe brahmacharis, they have a lot of experience of that, because a lot of people come inside and go inside, and we develop affection for them. And when they leave, it becomes very painful. So around 4 or 5 years, it was like a big blast in our temple also, where a lot of people whom I preached to, and the brahmacharis were like changing one by one. It became so painful that I went to some other place in Calcutta only. Now currently I'm in Gosala. This was the main reason. So it becomes very painful. Then now you preach people, you bring them inside and shower so much love and affection to them, and then they leave their family. Certainly they're not leaving Krishna consciousness, but they leave family, it becomes very painful. And what to say when somebody departs? See, even some of my friends who departed from this world, it becomes very painful. But even when we stay with the people, sometimes we may not find so much of pleasure. And that is why we find relationship problems are the greatest issue in the current world. And this can be like a great source of preaching also. I've seen many devotees who help others to have good relationship. They become very good preachers. So many of our devotees, my neighboring brahmachari, he preaches like that. And the reason is Prabhupada gave is the main reason, that is service attitude, because service attitude is lacking today. So I have some data from the modern scenario. What happens when the service attitude is lacking? So I'll just give brief synopsis of that. Maybe Ramakrishna Prabhu would like to read, if it is possible. Prabhu, you are muted. If you can kindly unmute.
I'm sorry. Home cooking and America. Let America be a lesson to us. What happened in United States when home cooking stopped? Famous American economists of the 80s warned the people. The kitchen has been handed over to private companies, and if the elderly give the child care also to the government, family responsibilities and its relevance will be destroyed. But very few people listen to their advice. Cooking is stopped at home, and the habit of ordering outside has led to the almost extinction of American families, as they warned. Cooking with love means connecting the family with affection. Culinary art is not alone the focal point of family culture. If there is no kitchen, just a bedroom, it's not a family, it's an hostel. What about American families who close the kitchen and think the bedroom alone is enough? In 71% of US households had a husband and wife with children. By 2020, it has fallen to 20%. Families that lived then are now living in nursing homes, old age homes. In the United States, women now make up 15% of single households. Men make up 12% of single family. 19% of homes are owned by dad or mom only. 6% of the households are male-female shelters living together. 41% of all babies born today are born to unmarried women. Half of them are girls going to school. About 50% of the first marriages in the United States end in divorce because of this mess. 67% of second marriages and 74% of third marriages are also problematic. The bedroom is not just the family. If there is no kitchen and only a bedroom, the United States is an example of the breakdown of marriage.
We find when there is no service attitude, even the temporary relationships which give temporary pleasures don't give pleasures anymore. And that is the reason the foundation, I made the foundation very clear, that the foundation of relationship in Krishna consciousness is based on service. And that's true even with the foundation of relationship in Varnashram system. So the service is the foundation. So when women don't like to cook, homes don't remain home. So there's one such example, how such a small gesture of service attitude can maintain the family. So, so that's the base of relationship. And now coming back to our topic, or connecting with the topic of Vatsalya Ras. So certainly we have a better example or a better experience of some relationships in this world because of either not being aware of the proper principles or some people going away. But then we also have an alternative. So Bhagavatam, when it talks about the negative experience of this world, Bhagavatam also talks about the positive experiences of relationships which are eternal, which are there in the spiritual world. And just by hearing about them, one gets a lot of pleasure. So what are the effects of just hearing that Krishna Katha or relationship of Krishna with the devotees has been explained in many, many slokas. I just quote some of the slokas. So one of the slokas is Nivritta tarse rupagiyamanad bhava sadacho tamano bhiramad kauttam sloka gunanuvadat puman virajyet vina pasugnat. Nivritta tarse rupagiyamanad. So even people who are nivritta tarse, who are free from any inclination for material enjoyment, they also hear about Krishna and Krishna's dealing with the devotees, because such dealings, they help a person to get rid of cycle of birth and death. Manobhiramat. Ka uttam sloka gunanuvadat. Puman virajit vina pasugna. So unless until one is panus pasugna, either butcher or killer of oneself, one will not give up hearing such sweet topics about Krishna. So relationships, even when you hear about them and when they're spiritual and eternal, they give so much of pleasure. Similarly, those who don't hear that, those who don't take shelter of Krishna, what happens to them? Ye anyarvindaksh vimukta maninas teyasta bhava visuddha buddhaya aruhe krichena parampadam tatha patanti adho narmit yusmad angraya. So patanti adho anarmit yusmad angraya. Because they have not taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, patanti adho, they fall down. So even such people, they think vimukta manina, they feel that no, I am liberated. But then they fall down because of being a sentient being, we all need relationships. We can't be like monists. And just by hearing about them, one can get rid of all the miseries of the world. So we find, if we see in this picture, we see about Parikshit Maharaj. So same Parikshit Maharaj who was feeling so much hungry, thirsty, and because of feeling hungry and thirsty, he kept the dead snake over the neck of Samik Rishi. But now he hears about Krishna's Leela from the mouth of Sukadev Goswami. What happens to him? So what happens to him is he forgets everything. So he says, Ne sati dussaha chunmam taktodam api badate pibantam tam mukhambojam chutam harikathamutam ne sati dussaha chunmam. So this chun means chut means basically hunger. Nesati dussa, it's very difficult to tolerate. And already I couldn't tolerate and I kept the dead snake over the neck of the Samik Rishi. Taktodam abhi bate, but it doesn't disturb me anymore. Why? Pivantam tam mukham bojham. From your lotus mouth I'm hearing what? Achyutam harikathamritam. I'm hearing about the katha of Lord Krishna. Because I'm hearing Krishna katha from your mouth, I'm not feeling hungry, I'm not feeling thirsty. So Krishna is Rasaraj and his dealings with the devotees is so realizable. And that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me devyam evam yogeti tattata takta deham punar janma neti mametu sarjuna. That my janma, my birth and my activities are transcendental. And just by hearing about them, taktam deham punar janma neti. After giving up this body, neti, one will not come back in this world. Mamiti, he will come back to me. So just by hearing about this relationship, the permanent relationship of Krishna with the devotees and the devotees in the spiritual world, it's realizable in this world, and after this world also, we can also enter in that relationship with Krishna. And that's why hearing about these pastimes, realizing these pastimes is considered the essence of all scriptures. So we are Rupanugas, follower of Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami has given the essence of all the teachings in Nectar of Instruction, Updesamrit. And the essence of all the verses of Updesamrit is given in one verse, NY verse number 8. And there he says, Tishtan Vade Tadanuragi Jananugami, Kalen Niyat Akhilam Iti Upadesa Saram. This is Upadesh Saram, this is the essence of all the scriptures that remain in Vraja. Now, certainly, Prabhupada says, my temples are not different from Vaikuntha or Vraja. Tadanuragi Jananugami, following the footsteps of the previous acharyas, and Kalim Niyat Akhilam Iti Upadesh Saram. And at all the times, one should chant and hear about the pastimes of name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. So that is how that's considered the essence of all the scriptures. So pastimes of the Lord are already very powerful, very realizable, but somehow we find that despite that, what happens is many times they don't look very realizable. But Krishna's childhood pastimes, they remove that disturbances also. So there's a beautiful verse which comes in the 7th chapter of the 10th canto. Yena yena avatarena bhagavan hridiswara karoti karna ramyani manogyani chana prabho yat sanvato apeti artir vitishna sattam cha suddhati atireda pumsa tvamev haram vad manase chet. So this verse says, Yena yena avatarena bhagavan hridiswara. Whatever avatars Lord Hari has taken, Yena avatarena bhagavan hridiswara karoti karna ramyani. So they are very, very pleasing to the ears and the mind. Manogani Chama Prabhu. But what happens is, let us say somebody says, I don't find them realizable. So then, Parikshit Maharaj says that, my dear Sukdev Goswami, Yat Srannato Apati Aritir Vitishna. So if one keeps on hearing about that, what happens is, Apati Aritir. We may not be attracted to Krishna's pastimes, but that unattractiveness goes away. I just wrote them in the side. So arati. So what happens? Apathy, vanishes. Vanishes? Arati. Unattractiveness about hearing about Krishna, it goes away. Then Vitrishna. Trishna basically means hankering. Vitrishna means not hankering. So because of dirty things in the mind, what happens is we don't hanker for Krishna's pastimes. We hanker for so many sense objects of this world. But we keep on hearing about Krishna's childhood pastimes, that non-interest or not hankering goes away and we start hankering for Krishna's pastimes. And then Saptam cha Suddhati Asirena Pumsa. Very soon, even the existence of a person becomes purified. And then what happens is we develop devotion for the Lord and we develop the friendship with the devotees of the Lord also. So these all effects come just by hearing about Krishna's childhood pastimes. So same relationships when they are there in the spiritual world, especially Krishna's childhood pastimes, are extremely realizable by the devotees at all the times. So these are few lessons just by glories of hearing about Krishna's pastimes. And we find these are also part of Prabhupada's mission. So all the devotees certainly know these are the part of 7 purposes of ISKCON. So Maharaj Prabhu can just read the first 3.
Yes, Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada's mission to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. Second, to propagate a consciousness of Krishna as it is revealed in the great scriptures of India, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Third, to bring the members of society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, thus developing the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead, Krishna.
We find all these first three missions, they include discussion of Krishna Katha. So we should propagate Krishna Katha, like Srinivas Gopal Prabhu talking about distributing Bhagavad Gita, Krishna book, all the books. Then we have to propagate the scriptures of India. Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, which talks about Bhagavad Gita is by Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam is about Krishna. And also within ourselves, within the society, we should bring ourselves closer to Krishna. We have to become closer to each other and also closer to Krishna. And that is why initial days, Prabhupada introduced the system that now after all the devotees would come from Sankirtan, they would sit, read Krishna book and drink a glass of milk. So when I just came in Krishna consciousness, then devotees would speak a passage. One glass of milk and Krishna book will keep you away from Maya's hook. So just by hearing these pastimes of Krishna, so the whole environment changes. The environment changes and we become so much Krishna-centered. So devotees, although there is a tendency, okay, we may talk about our scores, how many books we distributed. When Krishna becomes center, we forget everything. Our service attitude increases. That competitive nature goes down. So that's also a mission of Prabhupada, to propagate these teachings and also relish these teachings. Relish the pastimes of Krishna. So this is from the same verse, Yeni Navatarena, the verse which I quoted. Narottam Vilas Prabhu, can you read?
Srimad Bhagavatam 10.7, 1 and 2, Purport. But Parikshit Maharaj specifically mentions that the wonderful activities of baby Krishna, which amaze Mother Yashoda and the other inhabitants of Braja, are especially attractive. From the very beginning of his childhood, Krishna killed Putana, Trunavaruta, and Shatakasura, and showed the entire universe within his mouth. Thus the pastimes of Krishna, one after another, kept Mother Yashoda and all the inhabitants of Braja in great astonishment. The process to revive one's Krishna consciousness is Adao Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangaha. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.4.15. The pastimes of Krishna can be properly received from devotees. If one has developed a little bit of Krishna consciousness by hearing from Vaishnavas about the activities of Krishna, one becomes attached to Vaishnavas who are interested only in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj recommends that one hear about Krishna's childhood activities, which are more attractive than the activities of other incarnations, such as Matsya, Kurma, and Varaha. Waiting to hear more and more from Shukadeva Goswami, Maharaj Parikshit requested him to continue describing Krishna's childhood activities, which are specifically easy to hear and which create more and more inquisitiveness.
Thank you. So in this way, these activities are very, very relatable. Rather, actually, Prabhupada has not written in translation, but he has written in word to word. He uses the word Tameva Haram. Haram basically means necklace. So these pastimes are so sweet that one should be ready to keep them as necklace in the neck. They are worthwhile. So, and we'll see, now we'll go further, and we'll see that how different acharyas, they glorify these childhood pastimes of Krishna. So before that, I'll just tell something about my own personal life, what I learned from the previous passages. So when I heard these words of Prabhupada of Chaitanya Charitamrita introduction, how service attitude is the basis of relationship. So then recently I took up this Sain Seva for the deities. And I really found that this has really helped me to go quite closer to Krishna personally. So although I know none of our deities take rest, because Radha Govind, they are supposed to dance in the night. Anganam, Mantara, Madhavam, Janentanangana. Ittam Sakalpito, Mandale, Madarga, Sanjago, Venuna, Deviki Nandana. So they are supposed to participate in Ras Leela. Mahaprabhu, when he's in Navdeep, he would do Kirtan whole night. And when he's in Puri, he would cry for Krishna whole night. So I don't know how much they would be taking rest. As a Jagannath Baldev Subhadra are concerned, they give darshan to demigods whole night. But still I do this service, which helps me to go closer to Krishna. So I personally found that service attitude is like a basis for building relationship. So at least while night time, I think about Krishna. Okay, Krishna is taking rest and making bed for him. Looks very relatable service. And second thing is about Prabhupada talks about childhood pastimes. So reciting these slokas about Krishna. So even before, in my personal life, that has helped me like anything. Come out of all sort of disturbances in life and also even releasing Krishna consciousness. So there is a song called Govind Damodar Madhaveti by Bilwa Mangal Thakur. So it is a great deal. Almost 90% of the song talks about Vatsalya rasa only. So I would memorize these verses and I would recite them. So that would totally take me to a different platform, although there would be many disturbances in our ashram or the society or here and there. So they personally have helped me. And I also commit now that I'll continue this process of memorizing more of these slokas and reciting them. So that's a part of my personal application for from this particular purports of Prabhupada. And now we'll see that even Vatsalya rasa is concerned, we find that there are different categories of devotees who have this Vatsalya rasa. Now let us just focus on Krishna. So I would just request devotees, maybe they can just raise their hand and tell about different varieties of devotees who have Vatsalya rasa. Can you just raise your hand? Different varieties of devotees who have Vatsalya rasa. Yeah, Ramakrishna Prabhu.
Nanda, Yashoda, Devaki, Vasudeva, Upananda, Prabhavati. Likewise, we also have Aditi, Kashyapa, and we have also heard about the other forms of Nanda and Yashoda, such as Vrishni, Sudapa, and so on.
Yeah,
so, and Kardama and Devahuti also. Kapila. Yes.
So a lot of devotees. Krishna Kanaipu raises his hand and then Srinivas Gopal. Krishna Kanaipu.
All senior inhabitants of Vrindavana as well.
Yeah. Elderly Gopas, all inhabitants of Vrindavana. Elderly devotees. Yeah, Srinivas Gopal.
Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata.
Yeah. You are in Bhava of Mayapur. So they all these devotees, they have a Vatsalya rasa for Krishna. And we'll explore more into different levels of intimacy with Krishna in our presentation now. How different devotees have different level of intimacy. So like we find the first example which we get in Bhagavatam is the example of Vasudeva and Devaki. They have so much love for Krishna. So Krishna appeared in 400 form in front of them to give them assurance. Don't be fearful, nothing can happen to me. And what happened in return? So initially they were glorifying Krishna as Supreme Personality Godhead, and at the end they say, my dear Lord, you are so great, but unfortunately we fear that Kansa may harm you. So please remove two hands, from 4 hands just have 2 hands. And a lot of effulgence is coming from your body, and then you would spot it out very easily. So please remove effulgence and become like an ordinary child so that we can hide you somewhere. So that's the nature of Vatsalya rasa, where as soon as Vatsalya rasa overpowers, devotees forget the greatness of the Lord. So that is how this rasa is even superior to the rasa of Vaikuntha. So that's the nature of Vatsalya rasa. And then we find in Garbhastuti, demigods also offer beautiful prayers. I'll tell the reason why I'll mention from the verse, why I'm mentioning Garbhastuti. So they chant one verse. Sattavratam sattaparam trisatyam sattasya yonim nihitam cha satte sattasya sattam rita satta netram sattatmikam tvam saranam prapanna. So they use the one word. I'll not explain the whole verse because we have less time. But one word I would focus is Sattasya Satyam. Sattasya Satyam means Krishna is truth amidst all the relative truths of this world. And we find this particular thing in the episode of when Krishna sought universe within his mouth. So that time, Acharyas gave different commentaries. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, actually Krishna had 8 mud. And he was caught red-handed eating mud. And he opened his, when he said it, I have not eaten mud, actually he was lying. Now the question comes, one who is Satyasya Satyam, how can he lie? And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, no, he's called Satya Satyam because Satya is generally spoken for a purpose of doing welfare activity for everyone. But when Krishna speaks a lie, it does a superior welfare activity for the people. They relish the pastimes of Krishna even more. They become enlightened and enlivened even more. So that's why Krishna is called Satya Satyam. So his lie is more truth than the actual truth that he has eaten the mud. And he shows his universal form just to distract Mother Yashoda. See that she forgets what has happened. So they pray like that. So we find these are also devotees of Krishna, Vasudeva and Devaki. And we also find Kunti Maharani. Kunti Maharani praying to the Lord. And she is also in Vatsalya Bhava. Gopadate tvaikita gasidam tavat yate dasasrukili lanjan sambramaksham vaktram niniya bhaya bhavanaya sthitasya samave moyati bhirapi yad bhiveti. Can somebody just read the translation?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Kunti Maharani, my dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes. And you are afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me.
Will you see the purport also, please?
Sure. This exchange of love between the mother and the son was performed in a natural way. And Kunti, remembering the scene, was bewildered, and she could do nothing but praise the transcendental maternal love. Indirectly, Mother Yashoda is praised for her unique position of love, for she could control even the all-powerful Lord as her beloved child.
We find that similarly we find Mother Yashoda also having love for Krishna. So Kunti Maharani is mother of Krishna. She has a Vatsal Bhav. Devaki has love for Krishna. She is also mother. And Yashoda is also mother. But there is a gradation we find. Kunti Maharani was bewildered when Krishna was bound by ropes, Damodar Leela. Devaki also is mother. But although Krishna showed 4 arms, she was bewildered for some time. She saw Krishna as God. After some time, she forgot that. Except Krishna has son. But as far as Mother Yashoda is concerned, even when Krishna showed, I think I have photograph of universal form in the mouth, Yashoda thought, maybe there is some Deva Maya. We hear of the contemplations. Maybe, some demigods have bewildered me. Then she thinks, how can demigods bewilder me? I'm just an ordinary cowherd woman. Then she thinks, maybe, some Rakshasas have bewildered me. Then she becomes very worried. Oh, what would be happening now? So she becomes worried about protection of Krishna. So her love is untinged by any sort of greatness. That's why love of Vrajavasi, love of Mother Yashoda is considered the superior most among all the other Vatsal Bhav. So there is a gradation of Vatsal Bhav also, the greatest gradation of intimacy we find in the amidst the devotees of the Lord, although all of them are very great and they have Vatsal Bhav for the Lord. So that's why Mother Yashoda, she has been glorified like anything because of that intimacy. Rather, her bhav is called the Prabhasa Sutra for all the Krishna's Leela. So Krishna's Leela, there's a verse which comes in the 8th chapter. Traya chopanishad visya sankhya yogescha satyate upagi manam mahatvam hari samanyatatmajam. Traya chopanishad. So Traya means 3 Vedas. 3 Vedas cha Upanishad. Traya chopanishad visya sankhya yoges. Jnana yoga scriptures which talk about 24 elements. And Satyate means the literatures of devotees. They all glorify Krishna like anything. Oh, he's Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's Supreme Personality of Godhead. But as far as Vrajavasis are concerned, Hari Saman Atmajam. Atmajam means he's my child. So this is called the Prabhata Sutra of all the Krishna's Leela, that they are such intimacy with Krishna. For them, it doesn't matter whether Krishna is God or not. We find in the pastimes or even the verses of gopis, they know Krishna is God, but how does it matter for them? They don't come to Krishna because Krishna is God. So that's why that Vatsalya bhava is very, very intense in Bhagavata. But that Vatsalya bhava is so great that even if it is expressed by someone else, Krishna accepts that. And we find this famous example of Putana. Putana came to poison Krishna, but Krishna just saw that she wants to feed me milk, and Krishna accepted that. And that's why Sukadeva Goswami glorifies. So he glorifies that, even that bhava of Putana. But then here also he makes a gradation in these verses. This is in the 6th chapter. Padvyam bhakti hitistabhyam vandabhyam loke vandete angam yassa samakramya bhagavan api tatstanam yatu dhani api sasvargam avapa janani gatem Krishna bhukta yatha chira kimo gavamadhu anumataraha. So this verse says, Padvyam bhakti hitistabhyam, that those very lotus feet which devotees keep them near their heart. They keep in their heart. Vandabhyam loka vandete. And Lok Vandita, people like Brahma, Shiva, and all the different rulers, they worship these lotus feet. Lok Vandite. Angam yasa samakrama. What is of lotus feet? Putana got a good fortune of embracing Krishna's entire body, not just lotus feet. And Bhagavan api tatstanam. And he not just embraced the body, he sucked her breast. What a good fortune. And that's why what was the result? Yatu dhani api sasvargam. That Yatu dhani, that Khechari, the witch's Putana, she went to the abode of Krishna. Avapa janani gatim. Krishna gave her the position of the mother. But then Sukadeva Goswami very closely, he gives a gradation. Krishna bhukta yatha chira kimo gava anumatara. And what to say of the cows and the ladies of Vrindavan whose milk Krishna drank or sucked with great pleasure. That means they must have got the highest result, much more than Putana. So that's how this Vatsalya bhava is like so much celebrated by Krishna. Even with a negative intention, somebody comes, Krishna is so much pleased. What to show with positive intention? So it's a celebration. So Sukadeva Goswami celebrates this bhava of Vatsalya ras. And the epitome of that, like among the Madhura ras pastimes, the pastime of Raslila is considered the highest. And similarly, amidst the Vatsalya pastimes, the Uluk Bandhan Leela, Damodar Leela, it is considered the highest. And that is relished by so many devotees. So, many devotees, they glorify even the endeavor of Mother Yasoda to bind Krishna. Samatu, this is in 10th canto, 9th chapter. Samatu Sunnagattaraya Vrishishta Kabra Saja Drishtra Parisamam Krishna Kripya Sitra Bandhane. Samatu Sunnagattaraya, by seeing the drops of sweat in the forehead of Mother Yasoda, Visishta Kabra Saja. And similarly, the Malati flowers on her hairs were falling down. And Krishna saw, my mother is working so hard. Then what happens is, Kripya Sitra Bandhane, by causeless mercy, allowed to be bound. So that is how Krishna becomes defeated by that lover of Mother Yasoda. And Gauranga Dasanpu very beautifully was explaining, even while Krishna was sucking the blood of Mother Yasoda, the breast of Mother Yasoda, she was like, that's so that how Krishna defeated Mother Yasoda. Mother Yasoda has unlimited capacity to give milk, that is representation of her love. Krishna has unlimited capacity to drink milk. But then there were droplets of milk found on the face of Krishna. That showed Mother Yasoda could give more love which even Krishna couldn't accept. So being the supreme personality of Godhead, he was defeated by the love of Mother Yasoda. So that is how devotees relish these pastimes. What to say of that? We find so many devotees. Like Bilva Mangal Thakur, he also glorified this pastime and of Uluk Mandan. So he says, Yasodaya ganamulukalena Gokantha pase nibaddhamanam Rurotamannam navanita bhoji Govinda damodara madhaveti. Yasodaya ganamulukalena. Krishna was bound by this ukhal, grinding mortar. Gokantha pase. Gokantha means the rope which is used for holding or the binding the cows. Nibaddhamanam, he was bound like that. Rurotamannam navanit bhoji, and he was crying because navanit bhoji, he has stolen the butter. Govinda damodara madhaveti. So he realizes that scene. Whole Damodara Ashtakam is about it. Now glorification of this particular pastime. And then we find so many other devotees, so many of our acharyas, like we belong to the Brahma Sampradaya. Brahma also glorifies these pastimes. And then Brahmaji, he prays. We'll take 1-2 of his prayers. So he says, Ahoti dhanya vrajagoramanya stanyamritam puitam ativate muda yasam vibho vasaratmajatmana yastripte adyapi nachalam advaraha. Ahoti dhanya vrajagoramanya. Oh, what a glory, what a glory. Of whom? Vrajago, the cows of Vrindavan, and Ramanya, the gopis of Vrindavan. Stanyamritam pitam ativate muda. By sucking the breast of the cows and the ladies of Vrindavan, Krishna felt so much pleasure. He was so eager to suck their breast that Yasa Vibho Vatsaratma Jatmana. Although he is Vibho, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he expanded him to their children. In Brahma Lila, he became the cows and the gopas just to suck the breast of the gopis and cows of Vrindavan. Yes, Tripti Adyapi na Chala Madara. And the pleasure which he got by sucking their breast, he has not got that pleasure even by the yagya which is performed till now. So since eternity till now, whatever yagya has been performed, Adhavara means the yagyas, he didn't get so much pleasure as much as he got just once by sucking the breast of one cow or by sucking the breast of one gopi. What a glory. So Brahmaji glorifies that. And not just gopis, we are just talking about gopis, gopas also. So one sloka about gopas. No, there shouldn't be any gender inequality. So he also glorifies the gopas. Aho bhagyam nanda gopa vraja kesam yan mitram paramanandam purnam brahma samanatanam. So he says, aho bhagyam, what a fortune. Of who? Nanda gopa vraja kesam, of Nanda Maharaj, all the gopas. And vraj okas. Okas means basically homes. So those who dwell in the homes of Vrindavan, Vajavakasa. Yan Mitram Paramanandam. Krishna became their friend. Krishna became their relative. Poonam Brahma Sanatanam. So the source of entire pleasure of the creation was now their relative. What a great fortune. And we find even contemporarily, just 500 years ago, when Mahaprabhu meets Raghupati Upadhyay. So this is why our own parampara. So we are Brahma Sampradaya and then we are in the Gaudiya. So Mahaprabhu, he also hears from Raghupati Upadhyay about this glory of Vatsalya. So he prays, Srutim ape smritim tere bharata manne bhajantam putavbhita aham iha nandam vande yassa linde param brahma. So he says, Srutim apare smritim tere. So some people, they celebrate Shrutis, the Vedas. Smritim, some people celebrate the Smritis. Bharatam anya bhajante bhavita. And some people, they worship Mahabharata. Aham ihe Nandam vande, but I worship Nanda Maharaj. Why? Yassa linde param brahma. Param Brahma just crawls in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. So we find that all these devotees, they glorify Vatsalya like anything. But certainly we find mood of Prabhupada also. So Prabhupada, when he talks about Vatsalya, he talks in terms of service. So that's the mood of Prabhupada. That's why Prabhupada, he never translated bhakti as devotion, but as devotion service. And as we are reading in the purport of introduction, Prabhupada's CC introduction, he made it very clear that all these rasas are an opportunity to serve Krishna even better. So that's the mood of service of Prabhupada. And Prabhupada created so much of service, wonderful opportunity of service for all of us. And that is how, at least I am surviving in Krishna consciousness. So I'm very grateful to Srila Prabhupada for that. So thank you very much. If somebody has some questions, comments, they can give. There are no questions, comments. Srinivas Kopalpur is asking. Okay, Ramakrishna too.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It was such a scintillating experience to hear the Vatsalya rasa. In fact, I personally felt that you were like Sukadeva Goswami, trying to put in that kind of a stress in making it understand. As a Grihastha, I understand what Vatsalya rasa is, maybe even in its perverted form. But after coming into Krishna consciousness and being with the associates and the devotees, and to share with them the love, keeping Krishna in the center, has actually enhanced my own understanding of Vatsalya. So I could, at every moment of time that those slokas are being spoken or chanted, irrespective from whom we hear it, they immediately brings in about a kind of agitation within the hearts, because they are power-packed words, and when it is coming out, it really affects. So I really thank you for that. I really felt so immensely pleasure in hearing those. So my question, just to make the formality completed, I would like to ask you. So we could see that Shukadeva Goswami was narrating the varieties of pastimes so far in all the different 9 cantos. And when it came to the 10th canto, Parikshit Maharaj spoke in such a way that Sukadeva Goswami would ask, he would narrate the childhood pastimes. Like, from your own understanding, which kind of a pastime did Parikshit Maharaj actually enjoy more when in his whole of these Krishna's pastimes, specifically in the childhood pastime, that he was actually wanting to know more? Since you quoted so many of those pastimes, I wanted to know that.
So I don't want to speculate, but I can just tell from some references. So what we find is that it seems that he mentioned, or he desired to hear more of these pastimes, especially when he heard Putana pastime, Putana Lila. Because even when Putana enters, suddenly Parikshit Maharaj becomes like, no, very, very concerned about Krishna. So I'll just find one verse. So I have remembered, but I just want to see the first 2 lines. Now I remember. I don't have to see. So then he says, Na yatra savranadini raksho grahani sakarmsu yatu dhanis abhis tatri. This is the last line. So this verse says, Na yatra savranadini raksho grahani sakarmsu. Even the place where Krishna's pastimes are spoken, these Rakshasis cannot come. And what to say of when Krishna was personally present there? So my dear Parikshit Maharaj, don't be worried. Krishna, nothing will happen to Krishna. So it seemed that that awakened his taste to hear more about Krishna's childhood pastimes. And then later on, that's why before beginning of the Trinavat pastime, he spoke this verse, Yeni Navatarina Bhagavan Haririshwara. That now this childhood pastimes of Krishna are like necklace, and we want to hear more about them. So that's my understanding, although I didn't find any direct reference from there. Prabhu, you are muted. You are speaking something.
Thank you very much for enlightening that. I was also remembering, Srila Prabhupada mentions there that Parikshit Maharaj was so anxious about what would happen to baby Krishna. He could not tolerate that something would happen. Though he was fully aware that it was Lord Krishna who protected him in the womb of his mother Uttara. But just because he entered into Vraja at the time, in terms of remembering the pastimes, he became a Vrajavasi and adapted the same mood. So that was something very glorious to be noticed there. Fantastic. Thank you.
Srinivas Gopalpu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhu, in the Bhagavatam, it is mentioned about the childhood pastimes of Lord Krishna. It's not like Chaitanya Charitamrita also, like about Gaurang Mahaprabhu's pastimes are mentioned, but Nityananda's are not mentioned. Same here, Balram's it is not mentioned, and in other incarnations also it is Lord's incarnations only, but there the childhood pastimes are not elaborately described. May I know the reason?
Yeah, I can try. So as far as Balram is concerned, certainly some pastimes are given along with Krishna. Like they would catch the rope of the sitting calf together, and suddenly calf would become frightened, he would stand up, and then they would catch it even more tighter, and then calves would run, and they would have a paragliding experience catching the tail of the calf. So those pastimes are together, but other things are not so much elaborately given, because Balram also takes the mood of a servant. So we find in the Advaitachar, this Chaitanya Charitamrita chapter, where explanations about Advaitachar is given. So it is said that even Balram takes the role of a servant. Ekal Ishwar Krishna, that's why only one Ishwar is Krishna. So that is one of the reasons why Balram doesn't exhibit so much of pastimes, and they are not so much mentioned. As far as Nityananda Prabhu is concerned, his childhood pastimes are mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat, and that is the reason why Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami doesn't elaborate on it, being respectful to Krishnadas Kaviraj, being grateful to Vrindavan Das Thakur. And other avatars are concerned, certainly their childhood pastimes are not the highlight, because there is a more of a mention of Santaras and Dasaras. As far as Vrajavasis are concerned, these pastimes are highlighted, because Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhur is more in Vraja. Mora putra, mora sakha, mora pranapati, sei bhave sei more, kare vraja bhakti, apana ko bada mane, ama ko mahina, sei bhave ami hoye, tahara adhina. So these are beautiful verses. Mora putra, mora sakha, mora pranapati. He's my friend, he's my pranapati, he's my heart and soul. So apana ko bada mane, ama ko mahina. They will think I am bigger and he's Krishna is small. See bhavi ami hoi tara adina. And because of that mood, Krishna says, I become their subservient. So such a thing is found only in Vrindavan, there's nowhere else. That's why Mahaprabhu highlighted the Vrindavan Ras so much. So we don't find that with any other incarnation. Although they are there, but not like, they're not the highlight. That's my humble little understanding.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hari.
We
Any
have
other question?
2 more minutes to go, bro. Anyone? Okay, 1 more minute. Last minute.
Somebody has some question they can ask? If not that, then I'll speak one more beautiful verse.
This
Then I have a-
Ramayana also, it is there, no? In that Vatsalya rasa is present. But in Ram,
But we don't find it to be.
yeah, it's not elaborately explained.
So main thing is accessibility of the rasa for people in general is the main highlight. Like Mother Sita, Mother Lakshmi, they all have Madhur Ras for Krishna, for the Supreme Lord. They're like husband. Similarly, Dasarath and all the queens of Dasarath, they have that Vatsal for Lord Ram. But that accessibility for ordinary people is not there. That accessibility is given by the mercy of Mahaprabhu for people in general, and he is distributing Vraja Bhakti to everyone. That's why our fortune is a great fortune. So it's not meant for jivas. This freely distributed to jivas, it's a great mercy of Mahaprabhu. So we are extremely fortunate. So that's not available for other people.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Would you like to invite some feedbacks, Anant Gaur Sundar?
Yes, please. I would request devotees to give feedback.
Okay, with your permission, can I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. It was very enriching experience for us. You drowned us in Vraja Vatsalya Ras, and you drenched us in nectarian stream of shlokas emanating from your lotus mouth. I could see that you quoted, I mean, I think no other devotee has quoted as many shlokas as you have quoted right from your memory. I could see that you also nicely elaborated Srila Prabhupada's mood, Srila Prabhupada's mission. You also talked about personally how this topic has helped you and preaching application. You covered all those points that were required for evaluation. And definitely it was a very shastric, very enriching presentation, very useful for us because you started with relationships. You also got devotees involved in different exercises and oral polls. That was nice. At the same time, I was wondering that that you quoted the statistics from that home cooking. I was expecting a source for that statistics because whenever we give a statistics, we also cite the source for the statistics, a reliable source. Then it could be more authentic. Maybe next time you can add this. Otherwise, it was very, very relevant, very shastric, spiritually nourishing presentation, and I thank you for that. Hare Krishna.
Someone else would kindly enlighten me with the feedback. Okay, Ramakrishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. As I just shared, that it was really a very wonderful experience to go through this. An aspect that was very prominent was your free flow of the slokas that you were quoting. But I felt there that because you were probably in a little hurry, I believe, I felt so that because you had so much to share, and so the rhythm and the stress of that particular verse, if it had been put across with a proper meter, then relishment would be even more higher. So I really felt that one small point to actually note, because I was following that particular verses, and as it was very spoken very fast, I could not actually catch up to that. So I felt that probably you wanted to really shower us with so much of slokas and references, so you didn't give us time to come out from one rasa to the other pastimes rasas, as you were referring to, but it was very interesting. And that's how you actually gave us no room to move around. Another aspect that I looked into is probably as an aspect of PowerPoint presentations, that a slide had more information to read. So that was quite long in some places, almost covering the entire the screen. So if that could have been a little bit lesser, and maybe you would just even take part of it which you really wanted to stress, like for example in terms of Prabhupada mentioning a particular aspect over there, or the particular rasa that you wanted to derive to put it across there. That would have been also very nice to help. And then the rest of it you could definitely say it. But I believe that you had included such big ones just because you wanted us to engage in some reading exercise also, apart from hearing whatever you were saying. So I agree that that was justified in that sense. And I wouldn't say that there is anything that I could suggest for such an experienced person like you for room for improvement. But only a small aspect. I mean, please kindly do not take it as an offense. that some of those verses, whatever you had referred to, could also be quoted with reference numbers, or a particular chapter that you have referred to, though it was saying that Brahma had quoted this and so on. Maybe a verse number would help for us, like us, to note it down quickly so that we can also be benefited by that. So those were some of the things which I wanted to say. Thank you.
Krishna Kanaipu, can I take his feedback? Yes, Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. It was very live, enlivening also. And I see you're like quite a professional in presenting things as a preacher. It was like obviously visible. So many strong points, which already some of them mentioned, was mentioned, and especially shlokas were outstanding, and the structure of your presentation was very good. Also, I would suggest to increase this introduction, because it took some time to understand what are you presenting about and on which material you based on. So it took really time and some efforts to catch the flow, you know. But as soon as I caught it, it was very clear. I appreciate the statistics which you used. There's also was no source, but I think this is open statistic. It was very strong, you know, argument to support your preaching application. It was very useful, I think. At least I understood. Oh wow, the relationship is really important thing, and we should put effort on it. So some room for improvement. One more thing I can say regarding your technical things. It is text, like a vast amount of text. You know, sometimes like full screen is this. It's text with not big font. You know, it takes. You know, it changes the dynamics. You know, before it's flowing, then we stuck on reading. You know, it is a little bit like inconvenient for the listener. So, but in general, it was very nice. I feel nice experience to study about Vatsalya rasa, and it was like a bit relishing. In certain places I was really relished the Krishna Katha and your way of explanation as well. Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Krishna. Yes, Marathu.
Any response to feedbacks? Would you like to say?
So I thank all the devotees for encouraging me, and I would correct three things, four points which I found which I have to improve. One is that I should have a reliable source for statistics, so I'll try to find out. Second is I have to slow down recitation of verses. So the second one, and also mention the verse numbers. Actually, one thing is I'm very poor in remembering the verse numbers, but I should have written them down. So I'll take it seriously next time. So I would note down the verse numbers. Slides should have lesser content. So this strongly I would improve 100%. Devotees had trouble of reading so much of content. And also elaboration on the introduction. So I also felt that yes, I should have done that. Maybe explained that what I'm going to highlight. So that would have made things better. So thank you very much for the valuable feedbacks, and I'll surely try to implement them in my future classes. Thank you.
Okay, so we stop here for today, and we'll tomorrow again reconvene at 3:45 sharp, so that we begin in time and complete in time. I request all the devotees to please join us sharp at 3:45. I'll log in at 3:40 itself, and devotees can join 3:45 so that we complete in time. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
The last point to note before we depart were those 2 drops of milk on the cheek of Krishna, which Mother Yashoda could actually give more than what Krishna could actually take it. So kind of fantastic it was. Thank you, Prabhu.